one can potentially become more.
喺我嘅回憶入邊，其實我係冇人哋照顧我嗰個場面咯。
They ascend to higher position.
知道佢其實係好愛你，不過佢係唔識得教小朋友。
Obviously impedes on their ability to
自己話俾自己聽，你唔係一個好孤單嘅人啦。
Theories to help them understand how not to blame oneself.
Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 8, our last episode of this season 1 for What is a Good Mother Project channel. This is our commentary on Ronner's article part 2 about copers and systems of parental rejection. Yes.
Yay, let's get started.
In our discussion of Ronner's article part 2, we talked about instrumental and affective copers. Could you go more into the differentiation between them and maybe use an example?
There can be a transition from being an instrumental copers, and then with all these things happening to one's life, one can potentially become more affective and being more able to cope with remembered parental rejection. But what happened to instrumental copers? Why it's not, the most desirable situation one wants to be, according to Ronner, is because an instrumental copers wants to achieve, wants to get things done, want to achieve a good life, a successful life. Maybe that's the way this person copes with the parental rejections. The parents have high expectation on this individual, and so this individual being rejected wanted to prove him or herself to his or her parents that, okay, I'm a good person, I can achieve well, I can get things done. So they will do a lot of things. So these instrumental copers are said to be successful in life. They're the CEOs, they're the leaders of the community. They ascend to a higher position in the society. But what happens to them is that they also experience the negative psychological effect coming out from the childhood parental rejection. Or actually, parental rejection can be a continuous situation or phenomenon happening to one's life. So parents don't just reject a child when the child is young, they keep on rejecting the adult child. We mentioned the film 破地獄, yeah. Remember that the elderly father continuously rejecting the adult children. That's why they're suffering. And so these instrumental copers would experience this negative, maladjusted emotional, psychological well-being, or not very well-being, because they will retain these negative emotions. So they are prone to have bursts of anger. They'll reject other people at work. They will reenact the rejection that they experience from the parents to others. On the other hand, let's talk about affective copers. Affective copers are able to cope with the rejection and not experience the negative impact, the psychological maladjustment. They can adjust their emotions. Yeah, so how do they do this is another part that Rana talked about.
Mm-hmm. So basically, to recap, instrumental copers are people that are able to succeed in terms of like their career or like status, but they still emotionally have not really dealt with the rejection that they experienced in their childhood. Whereas affective copers can also be successful in life, and they are also well adjusted, and they've dealt with all of these rejections or like negative experiences they've had in their childhood.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so this brings me to my next point, which is about cognitive restructuring as seen in psychotherapy, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy. Could you talk about how a person undergoing cognitive restructuring, as seen with the therapy that they engage in, can actually help one become an affective coper and gain a more empathic point of view and understand where that rejection is from and how that shapes their actions in life?
Yeah, I think one important point about the effect of psychotherapy, or one main issue that a psychotherapist work with a client is the source of these feelings, how a client interprets the causes of those feelings, like where do these negative feelings come from, right? So the first thing that a therapist deal with is the thoughts, right? The ideas. What's the client's thinking? When an individual comes to a therapy, they don't necessarily start talking about their childhood, not necessarily. They probably would be raising up some issues about the immediate family or immediate personal growth issues or immediate vocationally related situations or conflicts, interpersonal conflicts. And so they don't necessarily know the links between childhood rejection and the current situation. An experienced psychotherapist would engage the client to explore these possibilities. The therapist probably wouldn't know the actual truth, so the therapist would inquire the client to tell the therapist more about what's like for you as a child. And then the more this inquiry is done during therapy sessions, the more the client obviously will tell the therapist a little bit more. And then all these subconscious or maybe suppressed memory, the memory is still there, but it's just that you don't talk about those memories. But if I ask you about what happened in your childhood, you probably can't tell me right away. It doesn't need a lot of hypnosis to talk about these things, unless it's a severe child abuse.
咧就係響釜山國際電影節咧攞到最佳導演啦咁呢一部女孩啦咁就係以你嘅童年做藍本嘅，可以咁樣講啊，咁啊啱晒啦，因為咧我哋 do show 咧就係中意由童年開始講起嘅，對舒淇咧認識多啲啦咁。我想問下咧，你咧曾經話過自己係冇童年嘅，點解？
因為我其實係有記憶嘅時候就已經係可能就要自己煮飯啊，自己着衫啊，即係我而家即係我喺我嘅回憶入邊，其實我係冇人哋照顧我嗰個場面咯。即係譬如話冇俾阿爸或者冇俾阿媽照顧過，淨係俾阿爸打，俾阿媽打咁咯。
但點解你父母要你做咁多家務？要你做咁多嘢？佢哋係咪因為工作嘅好繁忙，所以顧唔到屋企咧
？4個嘅時候冇去諗過呢樣嘢，不過我拍完呢部戲嘅時候就諗過，就會諗到呢樣嘢咯。4個嘅時候其實我覺得小朋友係好簡單嘅，即係為咗即係阿媽叫你做乜嘢你就去做乜嘢，阿爸叫你做乜嘢你就去做乜嘢，冇諗過點解會有咁樣去做。因為如果唔做嘅話，可能就會俾人鬧咯。係啦，點咯？
咁做家務佢使唔使做咧？打佢有冇份咧？
冇，
唔打佢嘅，
係好奇怪嘅，就係打我咯。即係可能我細佬整打爛個杯，又鬧我，或者唔知乜嘢都係嗰啲咯。係啊，
咁喺一個唔係好開心嘅氣氛之下度過你嘅童年喎。
喺出邊嘅時候係開心嘅，但係翻屋企就唔開心咯。係咯，
係你唔想同人聯絡？
可能好細個嘅時候已經即係離家出走啦，同埋你遇到啲朋友或者學生即係同學都唔係一啲即係好 close 嗰啲咯。13、14歲就要去打工噶啦。
係你自己要去打工啊？因為爸爸媽媽話你出去要揾份工噶咯喎，我哋養你唔起喎咁。
係啊，即係
就係咁。
喂，你而家可以出去做嘢咯喎，你出去做嘢啦咁咯。
就係離家出走啦。之前咧，你都講到係好唔開心啦，係咪咁啊？咁係因為乜嘢 trigger 你離家出走啦？我今晚就離家出走啦，咩事咧？同埋幾多歲咧嗰陣時？
有一次係俾人打出去嘅，第二次應該就係又係自己出去玩，朝頭早先翻屋企。朝頭其實係啦，我都幾百厭㗎。朝頭早先翻屋企，之後就撞咗車。咁我撞咗車，我個人就冇事。咁我就 攞咗我嘅電單車，咁我一路拖翻屋企。咁我阿媽就望咗我一眼，就話：誒做咩咁早先翻嚟？就有少少想發爛渣，之後話：我撞車啦。之後阿媽就望由頭到尾望一眼，覺得冇事啦，得啦，你可以瞓覺啦。咁我就咁好嘅，今日冇俾人鬧嘅。咁我就好啦，真係翻去瞓覺。之後突然間我老豆翻嚟喎，就咁捉起我。點解你將你架車點解會直成咁樣㗎？咁之後我就離家出走啦。
哦，反而架車有事就
係咯。我覺得點解唔問我有冇事咧？之後點解架車而家會爛到咁？咁啊，之後我就跑，因為如果唔跑咧，又俾佢打。咁一跑出去就覺得唔想翻嚟咯，覺得自己大個咯，可以自己出去。應該都可以自己養活自己嗰啲咁嘅嘢。真
係離開咗屋企冇翻過去啦。
真係就冇翻過去啦。
咁
我唔知點解，我覺得幾開心㗎喎。
係咩？
因為我唔使，因為我夜晚可以瞓得着覺啦，
唔使俾人鬧，
又唔使俾人鬧咯。所以其實我係真係幾開心咯。而家講緊呢個係小麗，佢就一路就冇離家出走，佢就同我唔同。咁咧佢就一路就希望媽咪同佢一齊走，因為其實佢都好錫佢媽咪嘅。佢知道其實爹哋打咗即係老豆打咗阿媽，佢知道阿媽會將佢嘅憤怒都會打喺佢身上，但係佢知道阿媽其實都係愛佢、中意佢嘅。佢唔會覺得佢得唔到媽咪嘅愛啦，所以佢諗緊點解我老豆又咁樣對我咧？咁因為老豆同阿媽兩個人嗌交嘅時候，成日都會話：你就係人哋執翻嚟嘅小朋友，你就唔係我親生嘅。咁呢個到底係真定假？冇人知嘅。但係咧，小朋友就會聽入去噶啦。小朋友好簡單噶，原來我唔係我阿爸阿媽生嘅。
呢段故事有冇發生真真正正你嘅身上啊？
有㗎，我阿媽都係話我係街邊執翻嚟嘅。
係咯，咁咪對你個有個陰影喺度咯。
係啊，你就會覺得原來我係街邊執翻嚟嘅。真係你係會信嘅，所以我先至咁唔得人緣嗰啲咯。
She was able to mention her childhood's like right way up front. Well, the therapist can show the link between these negative emotions coming from less than desirable, less than accepting family and environment that engendered the negative emotions. And then drawing the link, then the client, the adult child, would start not to blame oneself for these negative feelings, because oftentimes they're the person who got all the blames. That's why the rejection, they took all the blames from the parents. Yeah. And so they'll try to lighten up the load that they've been carrying. They're able to forgive themselves and hopefully forgiving their parents as well, and then move on to become happy, more lighthearted, and get off the load of this vicious cycle.
The use of cognitive restructuring in like psychotherapy, in particularly like CBT, that helps the patient or the person who experienced all this rejection be able to depersonalize, because it's not just their own fault. It's because they were in this situation that has then obviously led to them experiencing rejection, them feeling like this, and then like causing them to act out. And it's through this process that they are then able to develop some self-determination, have empathy for the situation, and also just be able to depersonalize. Gain a more empathic point of view, understand where that rejection is from, etc.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I just have an example in my head, like a manager who always blames the others, blames his subordinates for any negative outcomes in a project that they experience. If they can understand the source of their anger, not because of the situation, because every work situation, there are problems coming up. Obviously, we try to solve problems. Why should we blame it on the employees. I think that's not the best way to deal with the work situation, because everyone wants things to go well at work, right? Who doesn't want things to go well, right? If the manager can become less blaming and more constructive and more empathetic toward his colleagues, his subordinated colleagues. Actually, the work can be done in a more optimal way.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all about problem solving. It's not about blaming the others. Yeah.
I think this is like a good analogy to think about, because like in that analogy, it also improves the work environment in this specific individual copers. It would just like help them be more well-adjusted and like understand their situation better, and hopefully like become an affective coper at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
next question. We talked about social masking, so masking from bad rejecting emotions, thoughts from the rejection in childhood, so almost like a defense mechanism. Could you talk about this in terms of social mask being a long-term defense mechanism that has developed because of the rejection in childhood?
開心，因為我自己本身係一個幾開心嘅人嚟嘅，即係我唔係一個好即係好似小麗嗰啲咁嘅性格。我喺屋企咧就係咁樣咯，不過喺出邊咧就係一個大家姐嗰啲咁嘅，即係都係帶住我啲細路小朋友或者嗰啲同學一齊玩嗰種。
Yeah, this mask is something that the child carries on for a long time. Can you imagine like a child always getting the blame from the parents? I'm saying literally, parents just blame the kids for everything that happened. Like, for example, kids, like his hand got dirty and the parents would blame him, why are you getting your hands dirty, right? So anything the child would do gets the blame. So the child would develop negative self-image, right? Just as described by Rana, this very negative self-image. And so what should the child do, right? They put on a social mask. And because, that's the way to survive. Yeah, for this child to continue to survive, you cannot always, like, you go to school, this hurt child, this belittled child would put a mask. You remember Ronald's figure of this child with, all these negative images of oneself. He feels he's an imposter, he's a fake, he's ugly, all that, right? So obviously that's very hard to carry on with this negative self-image going to school, right? So to put a mask on, I'm really good. I have the right of way. I'm the best. But then, this social mask that one carries on can be overdone. That social mask in the long run becomes the narcissism, self-aggrandizing behavior. Yeah, because they try to mask this small inner self that I'm no good, but that's not true, right? The child knows that maybe deep inside it's not true, so they try to express the opposite, and so they'll put this social mask on to a very serious situation. That social mask, when it comes inflexible, that would be a problem. Just like what we talked about, the work situation, the workplace situation, the manager is always right. They blame any problems onto his staff. Then he won't have that many staffs who want to work with him anymore in the long run, because he's always right. No, nobody's always right. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess so. Like we talked about how social mask is a long-term defense mechanism. So like how it happens, like the child obviously at least subconsciously realizes these things, so then they are able to act in a certain way that protects them from outside possible scenarios of rejection. So like even if that situation is not a rejecting situation, they might interpret it as that and like that furthers their social mask and like reinforces it.
Yeah, you got the right point. They do interpret potentially not rejecting situation as a rejection. So remember on one slide, we post out the way Ron put it, this hypersensitivity, this rejecting situation, because they're too hypersensitive of any criticism there might be. They personalize it.
Yeah. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about the role of empathy in self-differentiation. So this is about the things written in Processes slide number 6. There were 3 things: a clearly differentiated sense of self-differentiation, a sense of self-determination, and capacity to depersonalize. In the first one of self-differentiation, kind of touched on the concept of empathy with like empathic concern, being able to think about and understand and care for other people's feelings. But could you just like explain the role of empathy explicitly?
Yeah. When Ronald raised this term self-determination as one of the capability of an affective coper to cope with this childhood parental rejection, I think it links to inborn trait of empathic concern. Some studies propose that empathic concern is an inborn trait. Some people are born with more empathic concern, while others might have little. And empathic concern can be developed, can be taught with the right kind of parenting, so people can potentially become highly empathic. But empathic concern, when one has this, or been born with this empathic concern, they are more able to understand why things happen to people, including oneself. For example, they understand the reason why their parents treat them the way they do, or they understand why one feels a certain way.
我個媽咪係好年輕嘅，你媽咪都係咁樣嘅，係10幾歲做媽媽㗎啦，係
18歲咯。
即係佢都係一個細路哥，
係咯，佢都係一個小朋友咯。
所以佢唔識湊，
唔識㗎。我阿媽細個嘅時候仲慘，因為我阿婆啊，係咪啊？我阿婆生咗7個定9個，我唔記得咗。所以佢係一個長女，佢係一個大女，所以其實佢都係要照顧一家大細。所以佢咁細個咧已經出嚟，即係生咗我啦。所以佢覺得我都應該係呢啲咁嘅嘢咯。
我成日覺得咧，即係唔係人人都適合做父母嘅。你會唔會咁樣諗啊？我覺得做父母之前咧要考翻個牌先嘅，係咪啊？
我覺得而家係啦，
睇咗㗎啦已經。
其實又冇咩和唔和解嘅，我覺得係點講咧？你知道佢其實係好愛你，不過佢係唔識得教小朋友。但係咧，我同佢嘅關係其實係好近，但係其實又好遠咯。即係我唔會好似好似我見到諗食食或者拖住佢隻手去行街，即係呢啲冇咯。因為嗰個距離已經產生咗。
優澤嗰個角色係你即係將佢整衰咗好多倍嘅，係咪啊？
都冇，差唔多係咁，即係我覺得差唔多係咁。
係啊。
And then they are more able to have self-empathy and maybe give oneself a pat on the shoulder. If you don't receive any pat from the adults around you, then we're able to say to oneself, hey, you've done a good job. Yeah, or you're only a child. What do you expect? Right? So they're able to self-empathize. They are also able to empathize with the others or other people's motives by explaining why things happen like the way they do. They're able to put things into perspective. So I think this is exactly what Wanda was saying is a cognitive ability or social cognitive ability. That is one's capability to understand how things go on in the social world and why. So that happens, have a good hypothesis of explaining. And like a pro-social way, not just blaming others. Oh, it's your fault. It's not my fault. But they're able to understand, oh, wow, the reason why they do this is because this, and the reason why I feel this way because this is a true feeling. When my parents scolded me, I feel really bad. and they
Yeah.
truly accept that kind of feeling.
你學業又係點咧嗰陣時？
其實我嘅學業應該幾好嘅，但係因為你成日夜晚唔夠瞓啊，或者唔知啦，有好多嘅原因，所以令到讀書嗰一方面，又或者我自己本身就唔中意讀書啦。不過有得嚟就嚟咁嘛。
嗱，你好年紀輕咧，就係入社會做嘢啦嚇。咁樣第一份工咧，係咪就係做 model 啊？
都唔係，我第一份工喺呢個租碟嗰啲地方打工。
哦，係啊，
係啊，
咁咪有好嘅咧？
咁就一路就係因為我做咗 model 啦，之後就拍咗寫真集啦，之後晶哥就睇咗我啦，之後晶哥同阿 Man 同埋就同劉偉強就去咗台灣見下我啦，就問我肯唔肯去香港啦，咁我就覺得好啦，咁我就嚟咗香港。
你嚟香港啦，一個女仔啦，係咪？你係台灣人啦，咁樣
好彩嘅就係我好似一入行第2年就攞獎啦，就攞最佳新人獎啦，第3年就同埋女配角。所以其實我就覺得，
都幾好彩啊！
都幾好彩咯，同埋其實都有冇咁諗，都冇咁諗。不過我嗰陣時應該講，我嚟香港嘅時候，我身邊啲人都對我好好咯。咁可能就因為咁啊，所以比較人性啲咯。
It's like they understand why they're feeling bad, and that foreshadows their ability to be able to differentiate themselves from the situation, to depersonalize, to be able to wait, what am I saying?
Yeah, determining your behavior.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. You have like your own rationale of understanding why you behave like that.
Yes.
So like I was trying to say, these narcissistic behavior or instrumental copers, if you will, they will deny their feelings. They're angry with the parents, but they deny this. And then they'll say, they put on a social mask and say, no, I'm not angry with them. They deny it. Yeah. It's like you also mentioned about like defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
Right? Denial is one of those defense mechanisms, the first kind of the lowest level of defense mechanism. Yeah, that is like, oh no, I'm not angry. They're not able to attribute the cause of the anger in an accurate way.
Yeah. And like that obviously impedes on their ability to be able to have empathy and like understand people's thoughts and feelings, etc.
Yeah. They either generalize their feelings or they overgeneralize their feelings. And not attributing the cause of the behavior. And so they'll make all these assumptions which might not be true. They're not very sensitive in finding out the truth because they live with a mask on themselves. Yeah. But if someone who has self-differentiation or self-determination, they feel that I would decide what to do that is right. So the person is him or herself is responsible for being angry or being happy. It's your choice. There's not a problem of being angry when you are being violated, right? Yeah. But you can express your anger, but you don't need to throw a tantrum or scold someone, but right? Or one can choose to solve the problem in a more pleasant way.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's your choice, right? Yeah, you get to be free. One gets to feel free in expressing oneself. You can choose to tell the person, hey, I am angry with you because you've done such and such to me. Or you can say, hey, can you do this instead because I get annoyed by, certain things. So now it comes to one's social skills, like how you express yourself.
所以我要喺演員面前同埋啲 cool 嘅人面前要表現我好
chill，
係啊， 好平靜，即係要壓咗自己內心嗰個煩躁嗰啲嘢落嚟咯。
咁我要建議係乜嘢？
我聽過最好嘅建議就係你嘅脾氣收啲，唔好亂發脾氣。
唔好亂發脾氣啊！
係啊，
你脾氣大㗎？
好細嘅時候脾氣幾大啦。
係咩？
係啊。
有啲乜嘢會令到你發脾氣㗎？
冇飯食啊，肚餓啦。你肚餓嘅時候血糖好低㗎嘛，嗰陣時係好容易發脾氣，同埋瞓得唔夠啦，就俾人捉起拍戲啊或者做嘢啊咁樣。
呢個我哋成日如果係做演員一定有嘅喎。
係啊，橫掂就話黑口黑面嗰啲咁嘅，
都係自己猛整啫，唔係咩大脾氣嚟嘅。
都幾大脾氣㗎啦，因為啲酷嘅人唔知啊嘛，覺得哇你好似一個殺氣騰騰咁，我點解咁我好惡㗎咁樣行過嚟？雖然我冇鬧人，但係個樣好。
而家咧？
而家唔會啦，而家
冇脾氣啦。
都唔係冇脾氣嘅，不過會閂埋門先發脾氣啦。我真係開心有一日，唔開心有一日，咁我會揀開心嗰一日嗰一種咯。咁我個脾氣都係㗎。如果我發一個脾氣發2個鐘頭，咁我做咩唔喺呢2個鐘頭快啲嗱嗱聲做完之後，可以翻屋企瞓喺度咧？所以我呢個我好多謝我自己嘅脾氣性格，會反省自己同埋會感恩咯。呢個我覺得幾緊要。
即係你嘅脾氣一路都係咁嘅，由細個就算幾唔開心，到而家大個都係咁樣嘅。
係嘅，即係一定係一個開心嘅人先。不過就以前脾氣好差，就慢慢脾氣就收翻啦。
冇咩值得唔開心同埋發脾氣啦，係咪？
細個嘅時候唔明噶嘛，係啊，細個嘅時候你唔係好明白，譬如話側邊啲人或者乜嘢，你會覺得喂夠鐘啦，收工啦，或者細個嘅時候會希望啲人就你多啲咯，係啊，而家就唔會啦。
而家你都會去就下人嘅，
幾乎咯，係係啊。
So someone who is self-determined, they're more able to take responsibility of one's behavior and one's emotions. That's what we usually call someone who has psychological well-being is someone who's able to be adjusted to many sorts of outcomes of situation.
Yeah.
So that's why like an affective copers would understand how to put these things into perspective and not so much disturbed by former or continuous parental rejection, but they're able to understand that, hey, I'm old enough to determine like what kind of person I want to be for myself.
Yeah. And they're not just like acting out as a defense mechanism. They're able to like understand, unpack what happened before, and then act in a way that they want to, that is healthy, that is more emotionally adjusted, that isn't like hurting others.
Yeah. But some people need a therapist.
Yes.
Some sort of theories to help them understand how not to blame oneself. Because it's very easy for rejected individuals to fall into a self-pity mode.
Yeah.
Oh, my mom didn't give me that encouragement. Oh, she's disapproving me again. It was very easy to fall into that mode and be feeling not so good.
因為其實當我寫完之後，已經係同我自己嘅故仔完全唔同㗎啦。我就係想講，當而家做爹哋媽咪嗰啲人，或者你曾經你係受過呢啲咁嘅環境啊、家庭暴力下長大嘅人，如果你仲喺呢個傷口入邊，你哋點樣可以自己抱下自己啦？自己話俾自己聽，你唔係一個好孤單嘅人啦。就係你勇敢嘅踏出第一步咯，即係好似我好勇敢嘅離家出走咯，即係係啦。
So but the more understanding we got, understanding about psychology and all these like videos that we're doing, yeah. So we hope to be able to help more people understand these links and then put things into perspective and then become more self-determined, in their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors.
Yeah. Okay, I think that is all for today.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
See you in our next season 2.
Yes, because this is the last episode.
Yes, we'll be reviewing another set of good and very useful parenting literature. They'll probably we're in the process of choosing these articles, but they probably will offer something new, the knowledge base that we're building here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See you. Yay. And now we know that we can cut out all those junk, so don't
Yes.
be too nervous if we're not right on the spot.
So,
Do you want to do it one more time?
yeah.
Yeah,
Can I do
I'll look for like a good one.
Okay, thank you.
This yeah. So
咁入邊咧，佢有個妹噶嘛，你個女主角，但係你自己真實咧，你係有個細佬嘅嚇。
係
有幾多係你攞你細佬嘅性格啊，佢個藍本放入呢個妹度，同埋點解佢有個妹嘅？點解唔係又係細佬咧？
因為我唔想點解將個細佬變成阿妹嘅原因，我唔想再加多一個重男輕女嘅元素喺入邊啦，因為覺得呢個太複雜啦。我想好簡單嘅，淨係寫一個家庭暴力呢樣嘢，而唔係再加多一個男女平等嘅問題咯。